Paul Field, welcome to Australian Musician.
Thank you.
You've just released your debut solo album, Love Songs for Lonely People.
Yeah.
Why was now the time to record and release your debut solo album?
Yeah, well, I'm now 60 and I've been playing music since I was 17, so it seems a while to get around to doing a solo album. But as you would know, I've been in bands since I was a teenager, and the Cockroaches, and then I did some albums with my brother John and the Field Brothers, and then COVID hit. And also at the same time that I'd retired, I managed the Wiggles for nearly 25 years, and job well done there, I feel. And I thought it was time for me to move on and try something new, or just kind of take a break. Nearly a quarter of a century is a long time to be doing a job. Even though I had the best time, we kicked serious goals, I thought it was time to do something new. And then COVID hit. It's like, oh, okay. And I'm good mates with Jimmy Barnes, who is a dear friend, and will often just ring to see how you're going, which is an amazing thing. And I told him I'd retired from the Wiggles. He didn't know about it. He's like, what? And then with COVID, he said, so what are you doing? I said, well, I don't know. I was hoping to, perhaps look into different areas to use my skills. I'm not quite sure. He said, mate, you're a muso. You get creative. And I went, great idea. So much so that he said, come down to my studio and use it, right? And then and it kicked from there. So God bless Jimmy Barnes and for kicking me up the arse and getting me going. And it was the right thing too, being creative. And music is what has always been a part of me. Even if we weren't successful, we did it, So yeah, that was the impetus.
Yeah. And where did the title come from?
Basically, I wanted to do songs that I've always loved. And I'm drawn to the songs that make you ache, but songs that I've loved. And really, that's the point. I mean, we're all lonely at some stage. You can be lonely in a crowd, and music is that magical thing that can help you, can get in touch with your emotions. And having worked with the Wiggles, we met a lot of people with additional needs, some on the autism spectrum, and where not much of the world gets through, or a lot of the world is fearful or whatever. Whereas music is like magic, and it gets through, it contacts. And I find music really healing as well. Of course, it can pick you up and all the rest of it, but it's just like a balm to me, And so, I don't know, it seemed to fit that. And my daughter Claire actually came up with the title. I was telling her about it. She went, that's it. And I went, yeah. So it's a good title.
12 songs on the album. Did you have a long list of songs to begin with?
Yeah. Then when I thought, geez, I'm actually doing this, I'm really going to have to make decisions. So that's when it was an enjoyable decision making. It's like when, people ask you what's your top 10 albums. It's like, oh God, how do I do that? Same with this, although part of it, and I got my brother John to co-produce it with me because he is a muso and can speak the language of music. And so we discussed, also what would be the best to do. And there were some there that were quite challenging musically. So it was great, but yeah, just really the main one was If I've Loved It. Like Walk in the Room, the Jackie DeShannon song, I've been singing that since I was 15, so it had to be one of the songs. And then I grew up in a family of 7. We'd watch Elvis movies on Sundays, and we loved Elvis movies, and we got into Elvis in a big time as well. And in a lot of even the schlock movies like Roustabout and whatever else, there'd be a gem. And there's a song on the album, which is hard to say that is there such thing as a rare Elvis Presley song. And the song called They Remind Me Too Much of You is just like the perfect song. So short and beautiful. And so, yeah, that's the kind of thing where, well, no one's really done that. I want to do it, and that's the kind of thing. Yeah.
The album opens in a very joyful way with the gospel-flavoured This Way to Love and Happiness, a song you co-wrote with your brother. Tell me how that song came about.
Again, when I was talking through the album with Jimmy, I was explaining about the songs and where they're coming from. He said, look, that's great. He said, but you guys right. You should do a couple of your own on the album. I went, yeah, okay, good. So it was the ideas man. And so Johnny and I just got together in the studio, and he is one of those guys. He wrote all the hits for the Cockroaches. He wrote something like 300 songs for the Wiggles. He writes musicals. He's one of those guys who has always got a 2 or 3 great melodies in his head. And that was it. I said, come, we'll do some. And he came up with that. We worked on it in the studio. It was a very quick process. And same with another song called Alison, You're the One, which we wrote together. So it was great to do that. And I think they really work.
Yeah. And then it goes into a country rock track, You Ain't Going Nowhere with Jimmy.
Yeah.
There's quite a country influence on the album. Where does that country music influence come from?
Again, it's I guess back to the ache thing. I've always loved, for the great part of my life, country music, and I got introduced to a lot of music styles through the Stones, and from Chuck Berry and the blues artists and so on. And Graham Parsons was my gateway drug artist to country, and with the Burrito Brothers, and so then I heard about Hank Williams and so on, and I've never left. Some of those songs are just the best, and so also the musos have been kicking with over the last few years. I've got a rockabilly band called the Sacred Hearts. We play in normal times all the time, and I've played with pedal steel players and played with Bill Chambers and so on. So it just seemed to fit, because a lot of those songs with ache, if you've got a pedal steel there, oh man, you're wearing a toe tag if that doesn't get to you.
Gasoline and Matches is a bit rockabilly. Tomorrow Is a Long Time has a bluegrass feel. Factory Girl is an Irish stew. Yeah, you certainly had no fear of mixing styles on the album.
No, actually, good point. And it was just what feels best with this, and particularly with the band, we got musos I've played with forever just to come in, and we rehearsed a lot. When I say a lot, in the front room of Jimmy's studio, and we'd run through it while they're setting the gear up. And okay, yeah, that feels right. So there you go. And I guess there's a broad spectrum of music I've loved and been exposed to over my life, and so you kind of pull that into what fits this song best.
Yeah. How far back do you go with Jimmy and the Barnes family?
Oh, the Buns family fairly recently. Jimmy way back, the Cockroaches and Cold Chisel played all the time, and so we'd cross like ships in the night. We had very different lifestyles back then. But my first unofficial meeting with Jimmy, I was literally just out of school. I went to a university ball where, you'd pay whatever it was. You get all the bands, food, drink the whole night, like heaven on a stick for a kid just out of school. And the lineup was Anne Kirkpatrick, Richard Clapton, Mental as Anything, and Cold Chisel. So like, wow. And I was up the front in my usual position, just digging it, right, and just loving it. And Jimmy in those days would have a bottle of vodka and would slug from it, go through it pretty much in the night, and shared it with a couple of us up the front, which is like, wow. Nowadays you get about 4 different diseases from that. But that was my first unofficial meeting with him. And then years later, we were, we'd see each other from time to time, but I didn't really know him that well. But in 1988, we had a family tragedy. I was touring Queensland, and my daughter Bernadette died from cot death, sudden infant death syndrome. And the next year I not many people knew about it. It was an awful 1 in 500 babies died from cot death in those days in Australia. So we helped spread the word. We did a show. It was a fundraiser and so on. And I got a lot of bands together, just asked everyone. And Jimmy, who still is huge, but was massive then, and playing entertainment centers and whatever, he was the first to say yes, and he's been the same guy forever, just a heart of gold. He walks the walk, and so we became dear friends from that moment, really, and we've done stuff over the years, seen each other. And then I worked with him very closely. He did a children's album and book called Akai the Gnu, and that was a blast, So I got to really work with him and got to know him, he and his family, the best. And I come from a big family, and we have wild parties over in my life. but his are the best. And the food, Jane's one of the best cooks on the planet. And yeah, it's kind of, he set the benchmark pretty high. His 60th birthday was like the who's who of entertainment. It was like Neil Finn, Peter Garrett, Glenn Shorrock, John Stevens, duets galore. It was just music and fun. Yeah.
As a vocalist, how fussy are you with your vocal takes? Do you obsess over them, or you get them early and fresh?
That's interesting. Yeah, it's like, in the days when we'd play nearly every night, it's like match fitness. The first night, if you do, like nowadays where gigs are rare, you do a night and you're kind of hoarse the next day. Whereas when you're touring, you build up that match fitness. Same with recording. You need to warm up a bit. So that was good in the rehearsals, I would. As to being fussy, I had my brother John there, and and the engineer as well. And I really relied on them to go, was that good? And they'd let me know if they're cool with it. Of course, if I wasn't happy with it, but I'm not really fussy. If I felt it was good and they did, then that's it. Yeah. A lot of it's self-evident too. Sorry. Yeah.
Have you become attached to any particular microphone over the years?
Oh no, not really. No. Again, being in COVID, we sorting through photos and looking at stuff from the past a lot. And like our first gig, I had like a microphone from a little stereo player that we plugged into an amp, and over the decades, and even now you'll still do a gig in a pop-up somewhere and the PA might not be great. You learn to be able to do whatever you can through whatever you can. And so I leave that technical expertise to others. And if I can hear myself, I'm happy, So no, I again, let's go like getting Johnny in, I rely on the technicals to those who speak that language. I really don't.
Yeah. How important was it to have your brother alongside you and co-produce the debut album?
Oh, critical. Again, the reason I worked with the Wiggles for so long is the trust. Anthony and I had been together for a decade in the Cockroaches. We'd had every experience, and he could trust me. I don't lie. That's it. We'll call it, what it is. Same with Johnny, and also that was the main thing. Also just communicating with the musos, and taking up an octave and all this kind of stuff. It's a language. They might as well be speaking Greek, he'll get it done. He'll signal with hand signals and they'll know what chord he means. Whereas I just get it done. So it brought a lot of comfort. I could just focus on the songs and my performance, but also he's my brother. We had fun, and again, with, lockdown and just being free of it, as we said to each other, it was so enjoyable. Like Jimmy's studio is brilliant, and so we just loved it. We enjoyed the experience. And I guess, the shared experience of what we've had since we were kids adds to that, where, if Bill did a beautiful guitar bit, we just look at each other and just love it, So yeah, it was great.
Yeah. It was very much a family experience, the Barnes family, the Field family, and also the Chambers.
Yeah.
What does Bill Chambers bring to a project?
He's a funny bloke. Experience is a big one. And we've used him on a couple of quite a few recordings. And I've seen him, he's played with my rockabilly band. He's just, there's nothing that can phase him either. He camps out, he does gigs in the middle of the outback, so again, he's not precious, but I just love, we love his playing. He can do slide and, just a great experience. And also, we did a Buddy and Julie and Buddy Miller song. Well, of course, he's jammed with Buddy Miller, that kind of stuff. So ticking all of the above, the experience, the sound he gets, what he brings to it. And, again, we've known each other for quite a while too. It's just that friendship and that feel that he brings to it, which, I think comes out in the sounds he makes.
Yeah. We're moving house at the moment, so I'm going through boxes and things. And I used to work at Duke, and I thought I'd drag this one out.
Yeah.
What are your memories of the Cockroaches days, your fond memories?
Oh, well, things like that, where you make the cover of a magazine, it's it was a great time and a different era. We thought it'd never end. You know, those were the days, my friend. It was we actually made, I think there's the Telegraph in Sydney for the band that played the most gigs in a 12-month period. They polled all the agencies. We'd play every night, you know, and right around the country and so on. And for kids growing up watching Countdown and just living for music, that's the big one. We lived for it, right? We kind of made every dream come true, even though it wasn't like we want to be famous. No. We just wanted to play gigs. And so hosting Countdown, getting on Countdown, getting in magazines, you know, touring, everything was cream on the cake, because I remember at one stage there, we're just going, wouldn't it be great to play live? Well, boy, did we get what we asked for, you know? And it was just fun, you know? And I think that's the thing, even to this day, where like doing that recording, you know, I didn't know what was going to happen with it, or, you know, get out. It's just, we do it because we enjoy it. And that's the main thing. And, you know, when I end up in Shady Pines retirement village, you know, I've given instructions. If I'm nonverbal, whatever happens to me, get my rock and roll, get my Stones jackets, my whatever else, my photos, my music, and I'll be happy, you know. But it was a great era.
Yeah. Speaking of Duke magazine, Sean Sennett used to write for it. He was one of the writers. And Valentine's Day is one of his songs that you've recorded for this album. What attracted you to that song?
Well, Sean's a mate, so I've known him since he first covered us when he was a kid, you know, and way back. And so we you know, we've worked together. He worked with my brother John in a group called the Honeymen. They recorded and so on. And John's written with him, and he's a great writer, you know, and performer. And I've loved his stuff over the years, and particularly Valentine's Day. It's another one of those songs I always loved. And he said to me for years, you know, you should record a version of it, which I'm thinking, well, why? Like, you know, who'd want anything I'm doing or whatever else, you know? And so when I did decide to record, again, that was one of the ones I went, you know, I love that song. And we'd also, just when we're yapping away, I'd say to him, you know, actually, I'd like to do it as a duet. I'd love to get a female vocalist in there with me to sweeten up the sound anyway. And so I finally recorded, and again, the universe was on my side. About a couple of months before I retired and COVID hit, you know, I just went up to Brisbane. I went, you know what, Sean, I'm going to come up and do it. So I recorded the vocal, and then I was on my last trip for business with the Wiggles. I went around the States and Canada. And while I was in Nashville, as I've often done, I'm like, God, this is a good locale for a clip. It's so different. You know, it's not Australia and whatever else. So I just picked up a camera guy, and we went round on a Sunday, shoot me. And I got the clip, you know, again, the perfect timing, you know. But yeah, I've loved the song. And then I wrote a note to Kasey's manager and said, can you pass this on to Kasey? I didn't want to ring her direct, you know, like just in case, you know, kind of thing. And she and eventually came back to me. She said, why'd you go through her? Just ask me, you know. But I wanted to kind of give her the out if she for whatever reason, you know, was too busy or couldn't do it or whatever. And her manager actually initially said to me, look, no, of course I'll pass it on, but I've got to tell you, she said no to about 100 things, you know, and for whatever reason, you know. I went, oh, wow. And she came back and said, yeah, I'd love to do it, right? And so she recorded a version of it. This is all during lockdown, right? Sent it through to me. And in classic self-deprecating way, Kasey said, hope I didn't F it up, because she really changed it round, you know. And, of course, she made it magnificent, you know, just made the song for me. So same thing again. If it, you know, if that only came out, I'd be happy, because just to sing with her, I've been a fan of hers forever. She's a great mate, and so on, you know. So, yeah, I'm glad we did that song. We changed it around a little bit too, the song itself, and Sean loves it as well. So everyone's happy, and people love that song too.
Yeah. As you said, you were the Wiggles manager for 25 years.
Yeah.
What's the most important lesson you learned as an artist manager? Maybe some advice you can pass on to up-and-coming managers.
Oh, wow. Look, I think, to be honest, to be straight, all right, that's the main thing, you know, and to be able to add up to, you know, if we're going to lose money doing this, why are we doing it, you know? But there was a lot of lessons we learned in the Cockroaches days, you know. The main thing that kept us in good stead in the Wiggles era was, if it's a legal question, get a lawyer. You know, if you're doing consumer products, get a specialist in that. So again, that was the learning of the 10 years plus in the Cockroaches, where it would cost you sometimes, but boy, it was worth it. You know, so everything pretty much the Wiggles have made, they own. And the Beatles don't even have that, you know, which is wrong, you know. And yeah, I think that's the main thing. Anthony could trust me. Trust is the big one. So my oldest boy does the touring, the live touring for the Wiggles. So he books their tours of internationally and nationally. And you've got to be able to, you know, tell it straight. Look, you want 6 extra dancers for the tour? No worries, but it'll cost you this, you know, and so on. And it's not a no. You've got to also trust what they're after and try and, you know, get the vision of what they're after creatively. You know, it's a different thing from what it was in a different era where a manager was the one telling them what to do. No. You work with them and try to get what they're after, and then just that's the main thing. Be honest with them. And explain, you know, explain why you can do something or why you shouldn't do something. But the main thing is to give everything a go. Right. I think that's the main thing. I stayed with them as long as I did because we gave everything a go, gave it a shot, you know, and look what happened. As you know, 30 million CDs and DVDs sold them into 190 countries around the world. You know, we went from, you know, playing Rudy Hill RSL to 11 sold out shows at Madison Square Garden Theatre. I mean, they made entertainment history, you know, so it's great to be a part of that. And also, I think in my selling of them, because I had thousands of meetings with people around the world, I truly believed in what they did. And I think if you're a manager, don't be doing it because it's a gig. Like if you love what they do, that's half the battle. Because when I'm trying to sell them to someone, it's real. You know, I was able to say they've got a background in early childhood. These songs are great. They're better than anyone else, you know, and particularly in a world and with children's entertainment that's largely online and not real, to have real people there, actual musicians who can actually play and sing is something quite unique. And, you know, when Wiggles first kicked into the States, I remember one of the reasons that people were pushing us back was because we sounded so Australian, right? And if you can recall, you know, Mad Max, when it was first released, was subtitled because they didn't think they'd understand our Aussie accents. And so I'm not early childhood trained, but my brother Anthony was, and I learned from them saying, well, look, you know, to a child in the States, and a Boston accent is profoundly different from one in Louisiana, you know? So we were able to take them through, and the punchline was there, look, take the tapes as they were in those days, play it for the preschoolers, then come back to me. And that's what they did. And they went, wow, they loved it, you know? And the irony, I've got to tell you this, you know, at that time when I was trying to convince them why you know, for us not to be dubbed or, you know, whatever, Thomas the Tank Engine, which is a huge early childhood brand, went to the States, and Ringo Starr was the narrator. And they revoiced Ringo. Oh. They sacked a Beatle. I mean, someone should be jailed for that, you know? But, you know, don't you, having had the success the Beatles had, don't you think they'd say, oh, perhaps they would work here? But such is sometimes the conviction of the suits that make decisions in any business, let alone entertainment, where grunge is it. Everyone has to be grunge, or this is that, you know? Well, there are no rules. If you entertain people, and again, we had runs on the board in Australia. We're the biggest selling act on video, et cetera, et cetera. But just people overseas, well, that means nothing. Whereas I knew, well, no. Children, there are cultural differences, but essentially are the same around the world. I know this would work. So, yeah, I think the short answer on that, trust, honesty, and believe and love who you're representing. And then that's 9/10 of the battle.
Yeah. Once you get out of lockdown, what are the hopes and dreams for this album? Would you like to tour it?
Oh, yeah, look, man, oh, man. We did a gig. We did a launch gig here in Sydney at Castle RSL, which, you know, I've been playing since the Cockroaches days in the 80s. And we sold it out, which is fantastic. And I literally, days later, boom, it hit. So it's just precarious, you know, to actually say, oh, yeah, we'll tour at such and such time. You couldn't. So we might do some events, and I've you know, got a YouTube channel now where We put up a lot of the current clips, a lot of stuff from the past. And that might be the way to go, where we stream it or live stream it or record it and put it. But yeah, I'd love to, except again, it's a bit challenging financially, and just the roll of the dice with COVID. It would be very hard, and particularly with me, you know, a solo artist to tour. So we just do it one step at a time. And look, getting the word out like I'm doing, chatting to you and your audience, you know, is what I can mainly do for now. So I'll focus on that. And, you know, I feel safe. If people hear it, they'll dig it, you know, and well, I hope they will. Yeah.
Well, Love Songs for Lonely People is out now. Paul Peel, it's been great to chat.
Thank you so much.